neurons, we now know, are essentially biological antennae. We don't store memories in our brains. We don't store memories of our loved ones in the neurons in our brain. The neurons are the antenna that tune to a very specific place, a vibratory space in the field that scientists now know connects all things. 2012, the scientists at CERN, the superconducting super collider in Geneva, Switzerland, they announced, yes, there is a field that underlies all existence. Esoterically, we had known that and talked about, and everybody said, well, yeah, sure, there's a field. But the scientific community didn't acknowledge that until 2012. That wasn't that long ago. So there's a field. It is a subtle energy field, and information is stored in that field. Our neurons are the antenna that tune to very specific places in that field. DNA does the same thing. So, for example, when we want to learn something new, if you're trying to learn a foreign language, or I'm a musician, you're a musician, we're trying to learn a piece of music, and we're trying to mimic what somebody else does. And the first few times you do it, you go through the motions and it feels awkward, or you're speaking a foreign language and you're saying syllables that just sound weird. All of a sudden, you wake up one morning and, man, you're thinking in Spanish, you're thinking in French, or all of a sudden you wake up one morning and you're playing like Steve Vai, my hero, on the guitar, and people say, well, what happened in that time? Well, this is fascinating to me. If you watch the time-lapse photographs of neurons trying to connect, neurons are very social cells. They want to hook up, and they're looking for another neuron to hook up with. That doesn't happen instantly. It takes about 72 hours, about 3 days, for the dendrites to connect and find others. So here's what's actually happening. It is the act of you or me or anyone watching this, to learn something new, to become something more, to better ourselves, to become something more in the next moment than we were in the last moment. That drive, that compulsion that we feel is the trigger. It's the command for the neurons to find other neurons to create the antenna that tunes to the place in the field that holds what we're asking ourselves to master. Does that make sense if I say it that way? It's amazing to see this happen. And this is why a lot of young people today, new generations, their parents will say, man, my kids, they're having a hard time learning because things don't come quickly to them. They want to learn right now. And what I say to them is stay with it and allow the process. Give them 3 days. Ask them to stay with it for 3 days and see if it doesn't get better. And it does, whether you're trying to learn math, science, art, music,